Aye. Well, you get some thigh in there. It's Bryan again, another edition of Fitness Friday. I think this is the third or so installment. Keep asking questions and I'll keep answering them. Today I have two questions to answer. One is from Anne, and she wants to talk a little bit about the paleo diet. Well, Anne, hi. I like some aspects of the paleo diet. I like the fact that they want you to eat natural food. And for those of you who don't know what the paleo diet is, it's people who kind of came together, I think it was in the early 2000s, and they came up with this idea that we should be eating the way the cavemen and Neanderthals ate. And the Paleolithic era was roughly, I think, it was 2.5 million years long, and it was about 10,000 years ago from where we are now. That's where it ended. So in that time, they didn't have dairy, they didn't have legumes, they didn't have wheat. They just ate things that were available to them, like the meat and the berries and the vegetables. So that's how they think we should eat too. And I don't think they're too far off. But the only problem I have with this diet is that they say that all of these wheats and legumes and the dairy, they contributed to our population's obesity, our diabetes, our heart disease, all of the health problems they have. They say kind of go back to the fact that we've introduced these into our diet, and humans, we just haven't evolved fast enough in order for those food to be able to be metabolized and be able to be used by our body. So it kind of makes sense, but even if you think up until about 100 years ago, our population was still relatively active and pretty healthy and really not as obese as we are now. And the only thing that's been included since then is all of this processed food. So to me, the processed food is kind of where the problem is. I drink dairy, I have legumes, I have all of the other things that they don't think we should have, but I don't have a lot of the processed stuff, not a lot of the box stuff. And that's kind of where my food ideas stem from. And that's what I tell all my clients, is just make sure that you're eating relatively clean, vegetables, fruits, meats, anything that comes from the ground, anything that came from a face or something that had a face. What else? Just everything in moderation. If you want to have a piece of chocolate cake, go ahead. Just don't have chocolate cake all the time, or your body's going to react like you do, and you're going to be tired all the time, and you're going to gain a lot of weight. So as far as the paleo diet, some aspects are good, some aspects are bad. It's the same as any diet that I've seen. You can't take it exactly for what it is, because there are way too many rules and there are way too many guidelines, and the way we like to work here is everything in moderation. You can have, cake and loaf across the street. You can have a little sweet there every once in a while, or if you're me, you can have a little more, because I'm an owner now and I'm not a trainer as much, so I can afford a few more calories. The second question comes from a client who wants to know about proper eating throughout her day to promote weight loss. And I know this particular client has children and also is a teacher. Hi, so your Hell Week, I guess, starts on Tuesday, and I apologize, but it gets really tough in those situations because you have kids, and now you're packing their lunches, and you can't just pack a whole bunch of celery stalk and carrot sticks and cucumbers and things like that, because kids don't really like to eat them that much. So you have to pack some of the things that are a little easier, some of the things that preserve a little longer. And even for my daughter, she likes little granola bars, and if they're in the house, I will eat every single granola bar in the box. And I shouldn't, but I can't help it. So I try not to keep those things in the house. That's what I try to do. And along those same lines, I try to also, now that my daughter's going back to school, it's easier for me too, because I can plan a little better. I can plan to have breakfast, to get up before she wakes up for school and make myself a nice breakfast, or make myself a shake, and then try not to eat some of the things that she's eating for breakfast, even if she's having a bowl of cereal. Not that I feed my kid crap and I should eat differently than she does, but if you're thinking strictly about weight loss, then you need to be a little more strict. Lunches are usually pretty good too, because you can structure those around your work. You have a specified lunch break, then you can eat lunch at that time, and usually you can buy something good, or you can just make sure that you bring something good. The problem people have is with dinner, because when you get home, you're tired, you worked all day, kids are home, they're screaming, and you just want to cook something quick. But that's where you really should put some effort in. If you know that you're having breakfast, if you know that you're having lunch, and if you know that the dinners aren't that great, then that's where you should concentrate your energy. And it's the same way the other way around. If you have lunches and your dinners are nice, but you know you're too busy in the morning to make yourself a breakfast, then start with the breakfast. Christopher Pratt is an actor. I'm running on 4.5 minutes here. I know you're not going to watch the whole thing. But Christopher Pratt is an actor who came out with a video, I think last month. They were doing an interview, and if you don't know him, he plays the overweight guy in Parks and Recreation, and then he just played a role in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's Star-Lord, and he's ripped, he's jacked, and he looks awesome. And so a fan asked him, how did you lose the weight? And he put it very basic and very simple. He said it doesn't have to be, everything done all at once. He said, look in the future. Think about 6 months ago. Like, how close does that seem? It's not really that long. So just think about doing something very very moderately. If you just spend half an hour a day doing some activity, then eventually you get to where you want to be. It's the same thing with nutrition. Don't think just strictly about the paleo diet. Don't think strictly about any diet. If you are eating corn pop for breakfast and having a massive sandwich for lunch and then not eating a lot of dinner, then don't think about changing everything and going on this diet. Think about eating something different than the cereal for breakfast. So it's about very, very small steps, not about changing your entire life, because people don't really listen to multiple rules. One at a time, that's key. So think about breakfast. If that's good, think about your lunch. If your lunch is good, then think about your dinner. If your dinner's great, then you should be getting to where you want to get, unless your weekend's terrible and you drink a lot and you eat terrible foods on the weekend. So that's a video, 6 minutes. Sorry it's so long. Fitness Fridays. Again, post somewhere, ask a question, and we'll answer it again next week. If you like what I said in this video, like it, share it, tell your friends, and like the page. Thank you. Bye. Isn't this the awkward part where people reach for the camera and they're like, and they wait and they look in? That's what I'm going to do.